Welcome back, everyone. In this video, we are going to learn about Stripe and integrating with Stripe, as well as setting up Stripe so that we can start writing our code to make payments against it. Stripe is arguably one of the largest payment platform services ever made. And right now, it is one of the most popular, if not the most popular, in North America and Europe. In order for you to get started, you need to have a Stripe account. So to set up a Stripe account, you get the sign in, and then inside of the sign in page, if you do not have a Stripe account already, you scroll down here and you hit the sign up. Once you've gone through the sign up process, join me back here where we will take a look at the view that we first see with the dashboard. So once you've done that, come back and let's continue. Welcome back, everyone. So once you've signed in and registered, you will see this page. You'll notice that you're asking and being prompted to activate the account. The way to do that is that you have to give it your payment information, as well as your banking information and your business information. So normally when you have a business, this is where that step becomes important, because only when you do that are they allowed to legally let you accept payments. Here though, we're just working with the actual developer experience. And the only difference is that once you actually have all of this validated and activated, you can flip this from test mode to live production mode. As you can see here, it says, please activate your account to access live data. For us, this does not really matter. The actual coding experience for us is the exact same. And all we really need are these two values. If you scroll down here, you'll see for developers, there is a publishable key and a secret key. These are the two keys that I was talking about earlier. The secret key being actually the most important one. The publishable key, as you can tell, means that you can display this publicly. It's not a concern if people know what that key is. The secret key, though, is something that should be hidden. So this secret key should live on our backend or our serverless functions, which we'll talk about once we get to that section. The main thing I want you to do is remember these two values. We're going to have to go back to them later when we actually start integrating with Stripe. Now, the first thing we need to do is install the actual dependencies so our React application can work with Stripe. So let's, inside of our terminal, run yarn add at stripe/stripe-js, which is the JavaScript library that allows us to make Stripe payments. And then we need add stripe/react/stripe.js. This is the library that gives us the React elements and React bindings so that we can interact with the Stripe.js library inside of the React environment in a significantly easier way. So as these are installing, let's go back into our application. The first thing we need to do is actually register our application so it knows to use Stripe. Stripe provides us these React components known as Stripe elements that we can use, such as the card component, which is that component we saw when I was typing in the credit card information. Stripe knows how to do that and use that in order to actually perform a payment, making the process significantly easier. But we have to actually register the application the same way that you would a provider. So to do this, what we actually need is going to be from the React integration from Stripe. So here I want you to run imports and then elements from @stripe/react-stripe.js. This elements is a component that you want to wrap around your app. So this is similar to a provider. Any components inside of this elements will now have access to the Stripe elements that we will use later. But we actually have to pass this elements component something so that Stripe knows that this is registered to us, meaning that this React application, when it makes requests, goes to our specific account in Stripe. Now, this is where we're going to need that publishable key. And the way we're going to use it is inside of this source folder. I'm going to make a new folder that helps us with Stripe. You can technically also put it inside of your utils folder. It really does not matter, but since we have a utils folder, actually let's use the utils folder. Here, we're going to make a new Stripe folder, and inside we're going to make stripe.js or stripe.utils.js. This is going to create and instantiate for us our Stripe instance. So in order to do that, we need to import load Stripe from Stripe @stripe dash stripe.js. Load Stripe is what runs in order for us to actually know that this is our Stripe instance. So here I'm going to export out a const called Stripe promise. And this is equal to us calling load Stripe. And here we have to pass it the publishable key. Now, as I mentioned, the publishable key is perfectly fine for us to expose. But just for our own security with these keys, we might as well put it inside somewhere safe. This is where we're going to use something called .env. .env is an environment file that we can add that makes it so that only our application has access to these files, because essentially it puts it on your process environment. It doesn't actually make it exposable anywhere inside of your code repository. So in order to do that, we have to first add a file called .env. Now, because this application is made in Create React App, by default, the front-end React application allows us to use this .env. It's actually already installed when we installed our Create React application. The only thing, though, is that in order for us to use it, we need to make sure that any variables we define in .env starts with React_app, all caps. So here I'm going to say React_app_publishable_key is equal to the string value of the publishable key. So here I want you to go back to your application, copy the publishable key value, and then paste this into this section right here. So once you've saved this, you will now have access to this value. The one thing, though, is that we never want to actually push our .env file up into GitHub. So what we have to do is in the git ignore, add .env. So now Git will ignore our environment. Moving on, what we're going to do is go into our Stripe utils.js, and now we can use this by saying process.environment.react. Well, actually here you can just directly copy the name. I can't remember sometimes all these variable names. But what happens is that under the hood, React will merge this .env file with our process environment. So now all of those key value pairs we have are accessible on process.env. So now this is essentially going to load our Stripe instance with our publishable key, which identifies our application to Stripe as our application. Then we're going to take this Stripe promise and we're going to import it into our index.js, because as you can guess, this is what we need to pass into our elements that we get from React Stripe. So here I go to utils folder, Stripe, Stripe utils, Stripe promise here, we're going to copy, and then inside of elements right here, we are going to pass it as Stripe equals Stripe promise. And that's it. This is what we need to set up so that we can start working with Stripe now and create the corresponding components. So again, .env was the new thing. If you want to add more environment variables that are accessible in your front-end application, you want to always add React_app. This only works, of course, in Create React App, but this is .env. So now that we have this, let's move on and start actually coding out our new Stripe components. I'll see you in the next video.